It was June 23rd, 2018. A seemingly ordinary Saturday in the lush, mountainous region of northern Thailand. The monsoon season had just begun in Chiang Rai province. For locals, it's a familiar rhythm of life, a time of renewal, when the parched earth drinks deeply and the landscape explodes in a vibrant green. But it is also a time of caution, a season that carries an inherent and unpredictable power. Deep within the earth, beneath the Doi Nang Non mountain range, a labyrinth of stone lay silent and waiting. This vast network of tunnels and chambers, carved by millennia of water, is one of the longest cave systems in Thailand. This is Tham Luang Nang Non. In local legend, it is the cave of the sleeping lady, named for a mythical princess who, heartbroken, took her own life within its depths. Her body became the mountain itself, and her blood, the water that flows through it. A place of beauty, folklore, and, during the monsoon, a place of known danger. On this day, after a routine soccer practice, 12 young boys from the Mu-Pa, or Wild Boars, soccer team decided on a small adventure. They were accompanied by their 25-year-old assistant coach, Ekafon Chanthawong, a man the boys looked up to and trusted implicitly. The trip was a spur-of-the-moment celebration. It was the 17th birthday of one of their teammates, Pirapat Sompiangjai, known as Knight. They planned to explore for just an hour, a simple rite of passage for local kids familiar with the cave's main chamber. They left their backpacks and bicycles near the entrance, a clear sign of their intent to return shortly. Full of youthful energy and camaraderie, they stepped from the humid afternoon heat into the cool, inviting darkness of the cave. They did not know the sky outside was about to open. They couldn't see the ominous clouds gathering over the mountain, pregnant with a deluge far exceeding a typical seasonal shower. Deep inside, they were oblivious. The gentle streams that trickled through the passages, the cool drips from ancient stalactites. These were the familiar sounds of the living cave. They did not know that the mountain above them was acting as a giant funnel, channeling an unprecedented volume of rainwater directly into the cave system. Those gentle streams would soon swell into a raging, unforgiving torrent, sealing them miles from light and air. As afternoon turned to evening, a chilling silence fell over the entrance. The boys and their coach had simply vanished without a trace. The initial hours were marked by a quiet, gnawing worry. Phone calls went unanswered. One by one, parents began arriving at the cave entrance as evening wore on, their concern growing with the fading light and the relentless rain. The evidence was heartbreakingly clear. Bicycles, still chained together near the mouth of the cavern. Soccer cleats and bags left by the path. These were the silent, terrifying witnesses to a journey that had not yet ended. What was meant to be a short, celebratory excursion had become a desperate struggle for survival against a force of nature. As the boys realized their way out was blocked, they were forced to retreat deeper and deeper into the mountain, searching for higher ground. It was a struggle no one outside could yet comprehend. The parents could only stare into the dark, water-filled maw of the cave, their hope battling a rising tide of dread. As night fell, that worry erupted into full-blown panic. Park rangers were alerted, and soon news crews arrived, their headlights cutting through the rain-soaked darkness, illuminating a scene of quiet desperation. The story spread like wildfire. The families' faces, etched with an anguish that needed no translation, were broadcast across the nation, and then, the world. A local crisis was becoming a global vigil. The question on everyone's mind was terrifyingly simple. It was no longer just where they were, but whether they were still alive, trapped in the cold, suffocating darkness. The cave, a popular local attraction, had become a death trap. It swallowed the water from the sky, its intricate network of passages filling with a speed and ferocity that defied belief. Its stone jaws were closing tighter with each passing minute, each fresh downpour. And time, measured in dwindling oxygen and rising water, was running out for the 13 souls inside. The initial search was frantic and chaotic. Local volunteers and park officials rushed to the scene, but they were no match for the monsoon's fury. The currents at the entrance were too strong, the water too murky. They were beaten back, helpless. The world began to watch, and then, to act. The Thai government mobilized its elite Navy SEALs. Calls for international assistance went out. What began as a local search for a missing soccer team would soon become one of the most complex and audacious international rescue missions in history. It would be a mission that would push the very limits of human endurance, ingenuity, and courage against an enemy of stone, water, and time. The Tham Luang cave system is a formidable opponent. It is one of the longest and most complex cave networks in all of Thailand. A winding and treacherous maze of rock that snakes for over 10 kilometers, more than 6 miles, deep into the Doi Nang Non mountainside. This is not a simple tunnel. It is a karstic labyrinth, carved from limestone by water over millions of years. A geological masterpiece and a potential death trap. The cave's profile is a brutal series of ascents and descents. Passages rise into vast, dry chambers, only to plunge back down into narrow, water-filled sumps. To navigate it is to climb and crawl, swim and squeeze. During the dry season, from November to June, it is a known challenge for experienced cavers and a popular, if rugged, tourist attraction. It is a place of stark, almost spiritual beauty, where darkness guards stunning formations of stalactites and stalagmites. But this beauty is deceptive. The cave is a living system, and its mood is dictated entirely by the weather. When the monsoon arrives, the mountain itself becomes a giant sponge. Rain soaks the porous limestone, percolating down through countless fissures and cracks, all leading into the main artery of the cave. The system is designed to flood, and it does so with terrifying efficiency. During the monsoon, it becomes a submerged nightmare. The passages fill completely with water. The currents, fed by the immense pressure of the water table, become powerful and violent, strong enough to tear equipment from a diver's grasp. And the water itself transforms. It scours the clay and sediment from the cave floor, turning the passages into a thick, opaque soup of mud. Visibility drops to absolute zero in the thick, silty darkness. For the boys and their coach, the reality of their situation must have dawned with terrifying speed. The path they had walked in on, a dry and dusty trail just hours before, was gone, swallowed by the rising flood. Panic must have set in. Their only option was to retreat, to turn their backs on the entrance and push deeper and higher into the mountain's core, searching for any pocket of dry land, any chamber the water had not yet reached. With every step, they were moving further from safety. They were moving away from the light, away from any hope of a quick discovery, driven by the most basic instinct to survive. They were now prisoners of the mountain. On the surface, as hours turned into a day, the scale of the challenge was becoming terrifyingly clear. Rescuers, initially local volunteers and park rangers, understood this was not a simple search. This was a race against the water, and the water was winning. The call went out. Thai Navy SEALs were mobilized to the scene. Some of the most elite divers in the country, trained for hostile underwater environments. Their arrival brought a surge of professionalism and hope to the increasingly desperate scene at the cave mouth. But even they were confronted by conditions that seemed impossible. The water was not clear but a thick, opaque mud, a liquid wall that swallowed the beams of their powerful dive lights. The currents were so strong they could rip a diver's mask from their face, spinning them around in the disorienting blackness. This wasn't diving. It was a blind, brutal fight against the force of the mountain. And then there were the choke points. The narrow, jagged passages, some less than 40 centimeters wide, required divers to perform a maneuver of extreme risk, removing their own air tanks, pushing them through the gap ahead, and then pulling their own bodies through, all in absolute darkness with no sense of direction. It was a claustrophobic, life-threatening task. The world watched as the days turned into a week. Hope, once a blazing fire, began to fade to a flicker. Headlines shifted from missing to feared lost. At vigils held near the cave, prayers grew more somber. The initial optimism was being eroded by the grim reality of the passing time. A massive engineering effort was underway outside. Huge pumps were brought in, running 24 hours a day to try and lower the water level. But their efforts could not keep pace with the relentless rain. For every litre they pumped out, it seemed 2 more flowed in. Other teams scoured the mountainside, searching for unknown entrances, chimneys, or sinkholes that might offer a backdoor into the system. Attempts to find alternative entrances by drilling from the surface were met with kilometers of solid mountain rock. The cave was a fortress. It seemed the cave had claimed the 13 members of the Wild Boars. The labyrinth was not just holding them captive, It was actively fighting back, repelling every attempt to breach its defenses. With each failed dive and each passing day, a dreadful question hung in the air. Was this a rescue mission, or had it already become a recovery? They called themselves the Mupa, the Wild Boars. This was more than just a name for a local junior soccer team. It was a declaration of their spirit, tough, resilient, and fiercely loyal. In the small, close-knit community of Mai Sai, they were local heroes in the making. The team was a vibrant mix of personalities, boys aged 11 to 16 from different schools and backgrounds. There was Knight, the birthday boy, Titan, the youngest, and Adul, the studious polyglot whose language skills would later prove vital. Each one brought something unique to the group, but on the dusty soccer pitch, under the hot Thai sun, they were a single unit. A family bound by a shared love for the game. Soccer was their great equalizer, the field their sanctuary. Their bond was forged not just in the thrill of a scored goal, but in the everyday moments of childhood friendship. The shared jokes, the long bike rides home after practice, the pooling of pocket money for snacks. It was a simple, profound camaraderie that would soon be tested in the most unimaginable way. At the heart of the team was their 25-year-old assistant coach, Ekapol Chantawong, known simply as Coach Ake. He was the quiet center around which their boisterous energy revolved. His path had been one of hardship and contemplation. Orphaned at the tender age of 10 after a plague swept through his village, Ak was raised by his grandmother before finding solace and structure in a Buddhist monastery. For a decade, he lived as a monk, immersing himself in the teachings of mindfulness, training his mind in meditation and the art of self-control. This spiritual education, born from tragedy, would become his greatest tool. When he left the monastery to care for his ailing grandmother, he brought that same sense of peace and discipline to the Wild Boars. He was more than a coach who taught them how to kick a ball. He was a mentor, a big brother, a guardian. For many of the boys, whose parents worked long hours, Ake was a constant, steadying presence in their lives. When the floodwaters trapped them, his past became their lifeline. As hours turned into days in the terrifying pitch-black cold, panic was the greatest enemy. But Ake's monk training took over. He gathered the boys close and taught them to meditate. He guided them to focus on their breath, to slow their heart rates, to detach from the fear that threatened to consume them. This wasn't just a spiritual exercise, it was a survival tactic. By calming their minds, they conserved precious oxygen and energy. He instructed them to lie still, to save their strength, and to drink only the clean water dripping from the stalactites, warning them away from the contaminated floodwaters swirling below. His selflessness was absolute. The boys had brought a few small snacks with them to celebrate the birthday, meant to be eaten in an hour. Ake carefully rationed the meager supply, but gave his own share away, ensuring the youngest and weakest boys had something to eat. When the rescuers finally found them, he was reportedly the weakest of all, emaciated but spiritually unbroken. In the heart of the mountain, a place devoid of light and time, his quiet leadership shone brighter than any sun. He held his young flock together, a shepherd in the dark, preserving not just their lives, but their most critical resource: hope. By July 2nd, the 9th day since the boys vanished, the rescue operation had reached a critical juncture. The weather granted a brief reprieve. Rick Stanton and John Valanthan decided it was time for a desperate, all-or-nothing push, deep into the uncharted, flooded network. The journey was a descent into a hostile, alien world. They navigated by feel, hands tracing rock in absolute darkness. After hours, they surfaced, their powerful headlamps cutting through the absolute blackness. And then, they saw them. At first, they were just small, ghostly figures. After 9 days in total darkness without food, the boys were found alive on a small, muddy ledge.
"How many of you?" he called down. 13, came the weak but unified reply.
13? Brilliant.
As they prepared to depart, the boys, in a moment of pure, unscripted gratitude, called out in unison, "Thank you!"
This exchange, captured on video, would become the defining image of the entire ordeal. It went viral instantly, a beacon of hope broadcast across the globe. When Rick Stanton and John Valanthan finally emerged, the news spread like wildfire. A wave of euphoria erupted. However, for the core rescue team, celebration was short-lived. The question changed from "where are they?" to "how do we get them out?" The rescuers were forced to confront the single most dangerous solution. They had to dive the boys out. This involved taking 13 non-swimmers and guiding them through a miles-long underwater obstacle course that had tested the world's best divers. The risk of a child panicking underwater, thrashing and drowning themselves and potentially their rescuer was incredibly high. This desperate line of thinking led them to a radical and highly controversial solution. They would have to drug them. An urgent call was made to Dr. Richard Harry Harris. He concluded there was no chance they could make the journey out without medical intervention. He settled on a 3-drug combination: ketamine, atropine, and Xanax. He would be zipped into a flexible stretcher, a human package ready for transport. He would then be handed over to the divers waiting in the water. On the morning of July 8th, the command was given. We are a go. The plan: bring out the 4 weakest boys first. Deep inside the cave, Dr. Harris administered the first dose of ketamine. The first boy drifted into unconsciousness. They guided the precious cargo through the black water, a seamless, silent relay race against death. Hours later, the first boy emerged, alive. Boy 2 emerged. Boy 3 emerged. Boy 4 emerged. The second day, July 9th, followed the same harrowing script. The divers, exhausted but emboldened, returned to the darkness. A boy's sedation began to wear off. He started to stir. The divers kept him calm and secure until the handover. By the end of the day, 4 more boys were brought to the surface. The final day, July 10th, was the most critical. The rescue team was running on fumes, and the weather was turning. It was now or never. They brought out the final 4 boys. And then, at last, Coach Ake. After 18 days trapped underground, all 13 members of the Wild Boars were free. The joyous celebration of the rescue was tinged with a profound sadness. The mission was not without tragedy. On July 6th, Saman Kunan, a 38-year-old former Thai Navy SEAL, died. On his return journey from placing the tanks, Saman ran out of his own air supply and lost consciousness underwater. Saman Kunan was hailed as a national hero. His sacrifice was not in vain. It galvanized the rescue team, strengthening their resolve to succeed. Tragically, Saman would not be the mission's only casualty. More than a year after the rescue, another hero was lost. Thai Navy SEAL Petty Officer Beirut Pakbara died from a blood infection he contracted during the operation. These 2 men gave their lives in the service of saving others, and their sacrifice stands as the most profound measure of the rescue's true price. As the last ambulance sped away, a wave of pure, unadulterated joy erupted across the entire globe. It was a rare, powerful moment of global unity. Back in Thailand, the celebration was deeply personal and emotional. In the hospital in Chiang Rai, the reunions were finally happening. Moments of profound, quiet joy, filled with tears and gestures of love. The rescued boys and their coach, though weak, were in remarkably good spirits, a testament to their resilience. The successful rescue felt like a victory for all of humanity, a demonstration that when people from different nations and backgrounds unite, even the impossible can be achieved. The Thai cave rescue was not just a story of survival. It was a story of unity, courage, and the limits of human possibility. It reminds us that even from the deepest, most formidable darkness, the human spirit, united in common purpose, can and will find its way back to the light.